The words slipped out before Emily could stop them. Ryan's hands rested against the edge of the car seat, his breath fogging the glass windows. Outside, the mist was heavy, swallowing the quiet street of Maple Ridge. The town slept under a weak streetlight that flickered every few seconds, throwing shadows across the car's dashboard. The engine was off, but her heartbeat filled the silence. "Are you okay?" Ryan's voice was low, careful, like he was afraid of breaking something fragile. Emily nodded, though her throat tightened. "Yeah," she lied. She wasn't okay, not even close. She could feel the space between them thicken, that invisible thread that had been tightening for months. Every time their eyes met, every casual brush of his hand, every pause before goodbye, it had been leading here. Emily Carter was 36, married for 15 years to Mark. A man who still ironed his shirts on Sunday nights, still texted her reminders about bills, still asked if she'd picked up groceries, but hadn't looked at her like a woman in years. They lived in a neat white house on Cedar Lane, where the lawn was trimmed perfectly, the kitchen smelled like lemon cleaner, and the silence was always spotless. Their son Liam had left for college that fall. The house felt too big since then, like every room was echoing her name back at her, asking what she'd become. She was still a real estate agent, the kind people in Maple Ridge called reliable, the polite way of saying ordinary. But behind every polite smile, she carried something hollow, until Ryan Miller came back. Ryan had grown up 2 houses down. He used to mow lawns in the summer, skateboard past her mailbox, laugh too loud with Liam on the porch. He'd gone to the city for a few years, then came back, after his father's health began failing. Now he ran his own small renovation and garden business. And he worked hard, really hard. The first time Emily saw him again, he was kneeling by the Carter's fence, hands covered in dirt, sweat darkening his grey t-shirt. He looked up, smiled, and said, "Hey, Mrs. Carter, long time." She'd laughed nervously. "It's Emily. You can call me Emily now." That small correction changed everything. At first, it was harmless. Coffee on the porch after he'd finished work. A few texts about a new paint color or a garden idea. But then came longer talks about music, his father's illness, her son's future, and the way Maple Ridge never really changed. He listened in a way Mark hadn't in years, not out of politeness, but with focus, like her words meant something. She found herself checking the mirror before stepping outside, touching her hair, applying lip balm for no reason. The change was subtle, but it made her feel alive again. One evening, rain came suddenly, thick drops hammering the roof as thunder rolled across the valley. Mark was away on a business trip, and Emily was folding laundry when her phone buzzed. "Ryan, you want me to check the gutters? Rain's pretty bad." Emily, "It's fine. Don't worry." Ryan, "I'm nearby. Won't take long." Before she could type another word, she heard his truck pull up. He was soaked when he stepped into the garage, shirt clinging to his chest, hair dripping. She grabbed a towel and walked toward him. "You'll catch a cold," she said, voice trembling. He gave a half smile. "You're worried about me?" "I'm worried about water damage," she said softly, but her lips curved without permission. He laughed, that easy, unguarded sound that made her feel 16 again. Then silence fell, heavier than before. Rain beat against the roof. The world outside blurred. Ryan's hand brushed hers as he took the towel, slow, deliberate. His fingers lingered. The air shifted. Her breath caught. "Emily," he whispered. "Tell me to stop." She couldn't. The words were there, somewhere in her throat, but they wouldn't come out. She stepped closer instead. Their foreheads touched, just that. Still, it felt like crossing a line she'd been pretending didn't exist. "I shouldn't be here," he murmured. "I know," she said. But her hand found his shirt anyway. The next moment was a blur. A collision of need and guilt, of rain-soaked warmth and desperate honesty. They didn't speak. They didn't have to. Every breath, every glance, every heartbeat was louder than the storm. Afterward, they sat in silence, both trying to steady their breathing. The garage smelled of rain and paint. Ryan finally said, "I don't want to pretend this didn't happen." Emily closed her eyes, resting her head on his shoulder. "Neither do I," she whispered. "But we have to." When he left, she stood alone by the workbench, touching the spot where his hand had been. The rain eased. The clock ticked. The house was silent again. But inside, something had changed. For the first time in years, Emily Carter felt alive. The storm that night had passed, but its echo stayed inside Emily. She went back to her routine. Open houses, grocery lists, evening calls with Mark. Yet everything felt different. Her world looked the same, but the colors had changed. Every time she stepped into the garage, the air felt heavier. The faint scent of rain and wood brought the memory rushing back. She'd tell herself to forget. She never could. Ryan stopped coming by. No texts. No quick hellos from his truck. The wrench he'd left on the workbench stayed there. A quiet reminder she couldn't throw away. At first, she thought it was guilt. Maybe he regretted it. Maybe he realized how wrong it was. But then she saw him at the Maple Ridge Market one afternoon. A basket in his hand, earbuds in, head down. He didn't look up. Or maybe he did and pretended not to see her. Either way, it hurt. She stood frozen near the produce aisle, clutching a carton of strawberries she didn't need. Her throat burned, and for a moment, she wanted to call his name, but she didn't. Instead, she walked away, her heart pounding so loudly, she could barely hear the music playing in the store. That night, Mark returned from a business trip. He talked about meetings, traffic, and a new client over dinner. Emily nodded at all the right places, smiled when he expected it, but her thoughts were elsewhere. When he said, "You seem quiet lately," she froze. "I'm just tired," she replied, stabbing at her salad. He accepted it easily, not suspecting a thing. That almost made it worse. His trust, his calm. It made her guilt feel sharper. After dinner, she stood by the kitchen window, staring into the rain again. She whispered to herself, "You can't keep doing this." But the part of her that had been numb for years, the part Ryan had awakened, refused to listen. A week later, she found him again, by accident, at the edge of town near the old river bridge, where Maple Ridge curved into silence. He was leaning against his truck, arms folded, looking out at the water. His hair was longer now, his jaw rough with stubble. He looked older somehow, tired, guarded. When he noticed her, he didn't move. "Emily," he said flatly. "I didn't plan to come here," she said quickly. He gave a half smile. You don't have to explain. Silence settled between them, soft but unbearable. I miss talking to you, she said quietly. He looked at the river. You shouldn't. Why? Because it's not right, he said, voice breaking slightly. You have a life, a husband. I was just noise in between. His words cut deeper than he knew. Don't say that. You weren't noise. He met her eyes then, and the weight between them came rushing back. That same pull, dangerous and beautiful. He took a deep breath. If I see you again, I won't be able to stop myself. She didn't move closer, didn't touch him, just said, then don't stop. For a moment, he looked like he might. Then he turned away, gripping the edge of his truck door. Goodbye, Emily. And just like that, he was gone again, the sound of his engine fading into the mist. After that, life moved on, or at least it pretended to. Emily kept working. She started painting again, something she hadn't done in years. Mark noticed the change. You seem better lately, he said one morning, half smiling. Like you've woken up. She nodded, staring into her coffee. Maybe I have. But every brushstroke she made, every sunset she watched alone, carried traces of Ryan. He'd become part of her, quietly, like ink that wouldn't wash away. Months passed. Liam came home for the holidays. The house filled with laughter again. The clatter of dishes, late-night talks, TV noise. For a while, she let herself believe everything was normal, until one evening, Liam said casually, Hey, I saw Ryan at the hardware store. He asked how you were. Emily's heart stopped. What did you say? Just that you're good. He looked kind of sad. She smiled faintly. Yeah, he's been through a lot. Later that night, she stood by the window, the same spot where she'd stood so many nights before. The sky was clear this time, the moon sharp and cold. She whispered into the stillness, I'm sorry, but she didn't know whether it was to Ryan, to Mark, or to herself. One Sunday afternoon in spring, she drove past Ryan Street without meaning to. His truck was gone. The house was empty, the yard overgrown. A for sale sign leaned against the fence. Something in her chest cracked open. He'd left Maple Ridge. No goodbye, no explanation, just silence. She parked a few houses down and sat there for a long time. The wind moved through the trees, carrying the smell of rain and earth, the same scent that had filled her garage that night. She whispered, You changed me. And for the first time, she realized that was the truth. He had, not by love, not even by desire, but by reminding her that she was still capable of feeling, of being seen, of being human. When she got home, Mark was sitting on the porch, reading. He looked up, smiled. You okay? Emily smiled back, eyes soft. Yeah, she said. I think I am. She went inside, closed the door gently, and for the first time, didn't look back. The guilt would always stay, faint and whispering, but beneath it was something new, peace. That night, as the rain returned to Maple Ridge, Emily opened her window and let it in. The sound filled the house, steady, cleansing. She whispered one last time, Goodbye, Ryan. And in that moment, she wasn't waiting anymore. She was free.